Hello, this is Dr. K. Welcome to Module 12 on software testing. This module is based in part on chapters 19 and 20 of Software Engineering, a Practitioner's Approach by Roger Bressman and Bruce Maxim, 9th edition. In this section, we're going to go over some software testing strategies. This definition of software testing is right out of Pressman. Notice that the main goal here is to find errors. We know that errors occur in the development process, and we would like to find and fix as many errors as possible before we deliver the software to the customer. This is an overview of the topics that we're going to cover in this section. Who should do the testing? The developer or an independent tester? What is validation? What is verification? And what is the difference between them? What are the different kinds of tests we can run? And finally, what is system testing? And what are the different kinds of system tests that we can run? Let's look at the first item first. Who should do the testing? There are two possible answers to this: the developer or an independent tester. And perhaps more importantly, what are the benefits and drawbacks of each approach? Before I give you Pressman's answer, please pause the video and figure out how you would answer this question. As the question suggests, there are benefits and drawbacks to each of these options. Let's take a look at some of them. The benefit of the developer testing the system is that the developer understands what the system is supposed to do. The big drawback of the developer testing the system is that the developer does not have the mindset to try and break the system. In fact, it's just the opposite. Developers tend to test their systems lightly, with sunny day scenarios, those that occur the most often. However, a good tester will try to break the system. A good tester knows that bugs tend to occur in the boundary cases, the cases that do not necessarily occur that often, but are critical to the software working correctly. The drawback, of course, for an independent tester is that an independent tester has to get up to speed on the system under test. You might think, because of what I just said, that an independent tester should always be the one who tests the system. In fact, it's a pretty good idea if both the developer and the independent tester test the system. Certainly in test-driven development, it's the developer who's writing the tests. And even in situations where you're not doing TDD, developers should still be writing unit tests for their code. Okay, that's the first item we wanted to address regarding testing. The second thing we want to address is verification and validation. What are they, and what is the distinction between them? Please pause the video again and attempt to answer this question before we discuss it. Okay, verification and validation are often used in the same phrase. You often hear of V and V, but they are different. Let's see how. A quick way of distinguishing between verification and validation is by saying that verification tells you if you are building the product right, and validation tells you if you're building the right product. Okay, so in other words, for verification, are you building the product right? Are you building it correctly based on the specification of that product? Does the code meet the specification? For validation, are you building the right product? In other words, are you building what your customer really wants you to build? In verification, you already have some kind of specification or model, and you're trying to write your code in such a way that it's consistent with that model. In validation, you're trying to create the specification or the model. You're trying to interpret the requirements that you have been given and formalize them and make them consistent. Both of these are challenging tasks for the software developer. But of the two, most software engineers would probably say that validation is the more challenging task. That's because it involves human intentions, which can often be hazy, ambiguous, and even variable, meaning that they can actually change from one day to the next. To give some concrete examples, unit tests are a form of verification. You know what your component should do, and you write tests to make sure that it does it. Acceptance tests, on the other hand, are a form of validation. These tests involve the customer using some portion of the system to see if it works as they, the customer, intended it to work.